Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the P51 Mustang. Listen to that. We're just here on takeoff. Actually in the German livery, so it's one of the captured ones. Both the Allies and the Axis, when they captured each other's aircraft, whether it's a crash or they just genuinely captured the airbase, whatever, they'd put each other's liveries on it and they'd obviously take it to fly. Anyway, here we go. Wheels up, so stand on the brakes. Got to do that. And then we'll raise the undercarriage. You see the more modern aircraft do that for you. I'll bring the revs back just a tad. And I'm just going to reduce the volume a little bit now we're in the air. Alright, so that was the larger of the airfields. There's a really small airfield over here in the town. Maybe it's the city, I'm not sure. I was very critical of this map when it first came out. The Falklands map for DCS, it was really, really bad. And they've improved it a whole bunch since. It's actually pretty good now. The problem is, I just feel when you release something and it's crap, you sort of miss the boat. And like a year later, you say, oh, well, we've updated it. It's like, you know, all the, let's just call them kids, are waiting for the next best thing. They don't care about a product that's a year or two old, even if it has just been updated to be pretty good. Yeah, it's just the way things are. In any case, here we go then, on approach to this town. I think I actually put smoke on this loadout. Let's have a little look at the Mustang. Yes, I did, under the pods there. And so, if I can remember my controls, I think it was... No, it wasn't. Let's have... It was left and right chem, I think. Well, that kind of works. I've got to hold the trigger down, so I think it was in the down position. There we go. There we go. Right, so we got smoke on now. So now, as I'm flying around, you know, we should be able to leave a bit of smoke behind us, and with it, I'll be able to ascertain how we're doing. Okay. I am using throttle together with the RPM, so I'm controlling those separately. Obviously, the stick and my rudder pedals. So they're the controls. We'll need the flaps for landing, and obviously the wheels as well, but that's it. And so this little runway that I'm talking about is just on our right tip here, so I'm going to buzz the airfield now, and then we'll get on with landing, because I want to see, you know, really, can I do it? And then we'll get on with the other aircraft. These trees are causing really long shadows down the side of the hill, which I appreciate the effort, but it actually is... There's a little bit of flicker to it, wasn't there? Okay, so here's the airfield. And I'll shut up for a bit so you can hear the sounds and the whines and so on. That was it. Right, we need to try land now, so there we go. You've familiarised yourself with the airfield. It's a short runway, as you see. Trees either end. And so as I gain a bit of height, max RPM, trim back a tad, and I'm going to turn the smoke off. I do have my controls bound, I'm sure, for the smokes. I've just forgotten which they are. That's the thing, if you own every single module and a bunch of other planes and other things, you sometimes forget which button you assign stuff to. It's why I do recommend, you know, those people that fly DCS competitively, you know, they only own, or let's just say they only fly the same few aircraft over and over again, and I recommend that. If you were to fly all of them, you just couldn't be the best at them all. It's just not possible. Anyway, There's the airfield. So let's go ahead, start putting the flaps down now. And I'm going to dump the wheels. Thankfully, most planes have flaps and wheels, so it's quite easy to keep those controls the same across all the aircraft. And again, if this all goes wrong, well, I've left it a bit tight there. That's not going to work. My hell, that's a bit of a skid. That seemed a little... I'm sure it's going like 45 degrees for a sec there. Let's try that again. Just... Interesting. I'm not sure if really you could get it to go 45 degrees without really trying, but I don't know, I never flew one. Right, let's try this again. And this time with a more standard approach. So I'm just going to reduce the flaps a bit, put a bit of power on. We're well into the red, but the for those who don't know, the Mustang is basically okay to operate at 5 minutes at full power, and in absolute emergencies, I think 15. You know, so obviously if you're in a dogfight, you want full power, generally speaking. Right, here we go. So this is a more standard approach for the Warbirds, at least the way I like it. It is a pretty full tank of fuel, so I do have that going against me. If this was real life and I absolutely had to land on this runway, I would take the fuel tank all the way down to give myself, you know, maybe about 10 approaches at the end. That would be it. I certainly wouldn't be... You know, the Mustang can hold loads of fuel versus Spitfire or the German aircraft. Right, here we go. I'm a little fast, but... Oh, I'm far too fast. I just can't do it. I'm too fast. Try again. I'm just easing off the flaps. I'm actually keeping the wheels out. So this time, let's not climb as high this time. And I'm going to go flaps full a little earlier. So I'm just over half flaps at the minute, and there's my turn to final. I'm going to trim back a tad. And I'm going full flaps now. Let's just get that over and done with. I'm not entirely sure where the stall speed is, but I don't think I'm too far away. I still feel kind of heavy. And the speed you see there is actually miles per hour, not knots, which is interesting. The German aircraft were in kmh at this time. Right, this is looking okay. Don't want to hit those trees, so I'm just holding my breath a bit. There we go. Oh, it's stalling a bit, stalling. Oh, did you see it shaking there? It was just about to drop out the sky, but we flared. We've got the stones either side. And I think we've made it by hell. Oh. That was my tail wheel slamming into the... I lifted up and you heard it slam there. But alas, where were we? There we go, the external view. We're okay, so we'll bring the flaps in so the propeller don't flick stones into the flaps and cause it unnecessary damage. And with that, I think we've got a pass there for the P51. And so, choose slot, I've put various aircraft in. Yak 52, I'm just going to tell you now, is going to be by far the easiest. So I'm going to leave that one on. The German ones are probably going to be very difficult together with the Spitfire. I did put the F-86 in there just for a bit of fun. That is, of course, the first jet fighter, the Sabre, that the Americans mass-produced. I'm going to go with the I-16. This is an aircraft that I recall almost nobody bought. Almost nobody used this tactically, but was an awful lot of fun. When I used to fly VR a lot on DCS, this aircraft, you could actually fly down the road in between street lamps on either side. And, you know, because for those who are not familiar, in VR it's a lot easier to judge gaps and things because everything is in the relative right place and three-dimensionally. It's, you know, if you haven't tried VR on a flight sim at all and you know somebody that has one, I recommend, you know, asking to have a go at it. It really is something else. It's not very good for making videos though, so alas I don't. Alright, max RPM. And let's start increasing the throttle and I'll shut up. It's a hand winding gear, this one, so I actually got to wind the wheels in. The I-16. The Russians apparently used this in the early stages of World War II partially. And you can see it's an aircraft that wouldn't really look out of place in World War One. I think if it was in World War One, it'd be able to kick ass, but it's certainly not a World War II. AI actually unusually good on this one. I had to go in the Messerschmitt versus this, the AI flying this, and the AI can do incredible things with it. Alright, here we go. First thing to note, not very stable. You've got to really be up on your dancing. Certainly wouldn't want a formation takeoff in this. Do now have some stability now that we've got speed. Up we go. And with it, let's start winding up the gear. That's it. And to give you an idea how slow that is actually winding up, I've still got my finger on the thing that basically makes it wind. And you can see there how slow the wheels are coming in. So as we come back inside, he's still going. If you fly too fast or get too crazy in the moves, it actually stops. You know, like in real life, you won't be able to wind that in versus terrific G-forces, and that is simulated apparently, but we're not going to test it out today. We're just going to wind it until the handle will turn, no more. You actually get an inkling with the springs moving across the display. There we go. I'll actually show you that when we come into land. All right. Town up ahead. This aircraft had no trim whatsoever, so no up-down trim, no roll trim, no yaw trim. Some aircrafts, like the Spitfire, has elevator and yaw trim, but no roll trim. I think the German aircraft didn't even have yaw trim. It was just elevator, and that was it. The Mustang, you know, the Americans really were spoilt in that regard, having all three axes, which for different speeds, different power settings, different loadouts, that's very useful. Alright, so here we are over the town again. It's her, the engine conk. I just nosed over, the G's went, and with it the fuel supply to the engine. Thankfully, as soon as the G's came back, the engine started again, but, you know, limitations that is, that the engine conk's at 0 G. Alright, here we go then. Let's try landing this one. And again, loads of fun, this one. If you've never tried this and you have DCS, and if you've got access to the free trials, I recommend giving it a go. You know, even if you don't set up all the controls, just set your, you know, your rudder, your stick, your RPM, your thrust. Gonna need your gear lever. It's not just one button. Again, it's the handle. It's one button to change between up and down, and then the handle either up or down. So you sort of need 3 buttons really for the gear. The flaps, and then, you know, if you like it and you want to keep doing it, obviously it can shoot. Just demonstrate that. Let's have a view actually from the front. They did make this look pretty cool, I think, actually, and like a lot of them, they've improved the effects. Here we go. See if we can move the camera away a little bit and still zoom it in. There we go. That's which one is it? Is it? There we go. Slow time down. So you see, not every round, but every, I don't know what it is, 7th round or whatever is a tracer. Whoa, didn't realise we were quite that low. Saw that power line there. Almost flew into the side of the hill while I was on a cinematic shot. Wouldn't be for the first time, I assure you. Okay, So down we go. Let's set ourselves up for landing. This time I will do the overhead brake, and then I'm going to really hope that my guy is good at lowering the wheels. And so here we go. So low flight over the field, check it's good, perhaps a little bit too low there, but whatever. Up we go, roll it 45 degrees, pull back and back on the power to idle, and with it, gear lever, there we go, can come down. And so we're just going to wind that down. Whoa, bit of a stall there, so we'll let the nose, bit of a nasty pause as well. There we go, that's more like it, looking good. Oh yeah, I was showing you where this indicator on the spring was. If you see there, I'm just going to put a bit of power on. See that spring coming through the cabin? Where it says 70 degrees, it's coming through. And that's basically how much the wheels are down. 75, 80, 85, and now they're down. And so if we zoom out, my handle has stopped turning, which is great. Okay, let's start putting the flaps down. Also done by a handle, which is very interesting. Lots of handles and levers, very few switches and hydraulics. Here we come. I mean, it's an open cockpit as well. Imagine flying that in Russia in the winter. My goodness. Right, here we go then. Standing on the brakes. Oh, we're still... just feels like we were a little bit too fast. Come on, come on, come on. I think I might have got it here. I think I might got it. Oh, I just get the feeling there's very little runway left. Let's have a look. Oh my goodness, look how much runway. You saw those stones. There was one stone left and that was it. My goodness. We do looks like we have a little bit of an overrun there before we hit the tree, but it's not much. And so with that, our second successful landing here, the I-16. By the way, I started with the easy planes for a reason. The only reason I'm keeping the Yak 52 for later is if I have a series of crashes, I can sort of feel a bit better about myself for landing that one. The MB339 is also not a jet. It's a not a prop. It's a jet. It's one of the training aircraft, also used for the aerobatic display. I think the Italians, if I remember or recall correctly. The reason I'm picking this is it's one of the newer DCS aircraft. Very underused. I think just because there's already 2 or 3 aircraft like this. It's a slow jet. Doesn't have a radar, carries very few weapons. Yes, it's a trainer, but really, I mean, people, you know, how many of these do they want? What I will say about it is, as a module, I actually surprisingly enjoyed it. I thought it was really well made for a new module. Simple to use. The weapon systems, if you use them, are simple. Look at that, the old-fashioned SCART lead there. Who remembers them for your printer ways back when the dot matrix printers? Don't admit to it. All right, let's go for it then. So I'm going to go full power. Let me say single engine. I'm not expecting necessarily to be able to land this on the runway, but let's go for it. It's a quiet cockpit compared to, well, I guess the open one for sure. See how we do. Oh, I think we're past rotation speed there. Let's go, let's go. And she's rising quite nicely. Wheels in. Spring the flaps in. And I recall there being actually... I recall there being that judder while the wheels and flaps were out. It was a very noticeable shaking on this particular aircraft. Let's zoom the camera out a bit. There we go. And it's not very fast, you know, when you think jet, you imagine fast. I mean, it's faster than your Cessna, as you can see. We're doing 150 knots. See, the absolute max speed there is 500 knots. Good luck getting there. I mean, if you dive down from a high, will you get there? Yes, but it's very hard to get there on the level under your own steam. I don't think it's possible. In fact, I've still got power in at 100%, no afterburners or anything. Let's have a little look and see. It does have a trim. It's electrically operated there, as you see on the stick, but it's not automatic. And the speed that you see there is actually the digital GPS speed across the ground. So that's actually how fast we're moving across the ground. So it takes wind into account. I don't have any wind set up today. It's just the standard, which is calm. Obviously, the higher we go, the thinner the airspeed. But there you can see, as if I just nose over, we're in gentle climb. But if I nose over a little bit, you see we're going to probably really struggle to get, I don't know if we're going to get to 400 knots. Ground speed looks like we're just about going to get there, but airspeed, it's going to be hard on the level. In any case, I think that'll do. I think this thing is capable of carrying a couple of heat seekers. Don't quote me on that. There's certainly no radar guided weapons because, as you can see, it doesn't know what a radar is. I'm not even sure it's got a radar warning detector on it, which is obviously puts you at a huge disadvantage. I don't even know if it's got flares for countermeasures. You know, I don't know. It's not really designed for combat. It's a trainer that in emergencies can carry maybe a heat seeker, but it can certainly carry a few basic bombs and rockets, and I think a gun pod. But you know, really, aside from trainer, is the smoke. I do have these smoke pylons on. I'm just not really sure how to use it on this aircraft. But that aside, let's come and see if we can land at all. Have we gone past it yet? Or no, it's here by this town. I think there are some nature. I think it's in the Argentina or Brazil or so. I think some countries use these sort of planes when they're going after the drug cartels, because obviously they can fire rockets down from whatever with more or less impunity. Say more or less the drug cartels, but yeah, I don't know if they ever get access to over-the-shoulder heat seekers, but I guess that would be about it. Right, so here's the runway off to our left-hand side. And we'll come round again with the sun behind us. I don't fancy coming in here because there's that tree right on final that would be in our way. I realise on the other side we've got to come over them, but it just feels like we've got a little bit more room. Okay. Going to give myself, you know, rather than this very late turn to final, which is, you know, the standard sort of Warbird approach, this is going to take me a bit more. So there's my warning to do with the gears. Let's get below that yellow dot. There we go. And gear. And I'm going to start putting the flaps. I don't know how many flap settings there are on this one. It's actually quite hard to see the flaps from in here. There were 2 settings. I just saw it go to setting 2. So we're on the landing setting now. You see that judder again. It really does shake the cockpit to the... I don't know if it's the gear or flaps or both, but it really does. Right, here we go. Final approach. We're at about 125-ish knots. I'm going to put a little bit of slip on. Just feels like struggling to lose that energy. We're going to put the air brakes on because we really are struggling here to slow down. Oh, drove that one in. I just had to fly it into the ground because... oh, this is not looking good. Not looking good. Ouch. Okay. There we go. If I had done that again and gotten in a lot slower, could I have done it? I don't know. I just didn't seem to have any authority at all once I got on the ground. That could be because I knackered it when I piled it into the ground. I don't know. But that's definitely a fail. Let's leave the MiG... this is going to be an interesting one. The Mosquito. Not flown this for ages. Probably... you know, when I say unique aircraft in DCS, I mean, I guess to some extent they're all unique. I would say really the Harrier, for obvious reasons, is one of the most unique ones. And I'd say after the Harrier, it would be this. propeller on each side. And one of the strange things about the propellers on this, if you allow us to show just before we go, is, you know, about the wing creating lift and airflow and all that. Well, if you see where the propellers are directly in front of the wings, actually the span of the propellers, you can see almost half of the wing. And if you take into account the wing is thickest at the roots, actually the majority of the propeller is over the wing when you take that into account, you know, the square footage of the wing, if you like. And what that means is, when you're coming into land, if you chop the power, suddenly all that lift disappears. And if you add power, suddenly you get a load of lift very, very quickly. And so, in that respect, it's a very unique aircraft. And you've got to be aware of that, because if you're not too far away from stall and you pull power, you'll be stalling. And in the same way, you can save yourself from stall. I think it's a two-seater. Yeah, so here would be my seat. There would be yours, slightly offset. And there we go. I guess if we were really good at squeezing around one another, we could probably switch over halfway through. I guess. All right, let's go for it then. So I've got 2 throttles. I've actually used my little lever there for the prop RPM, so we'll go through. Same engines as found on the Spitfires. Sounds good, doesn't it? Alright, engines are pretty stable. Let's hope this is going to work. 3, 2, 1. Now. And I'm using a little bit of differential thrust now to try and stay straight on the runway. It's very, very hard to do because the rudder doesn't work on this until you get a load of speed together because of where the rudder is. It's not behind the airflow of the engines. We've got speed now, so I think we're okay. Nosing over slightly. There we go. And let's pull. We've got it. Gear? Do we have gear? There we go. It's one of those that requires more than one button. Reducing the power a bit, reducing the RPM just a bit, and I'm going to start trimming down. Let's get a flyby. Power back a tad and reduce the RPMs. I'm sure this one, yeah, it does have trim, making use of it there. Alright, so here we go. This was this aircraft that really frustrated the Germans because they felt it was, you know, basically a couple of engines strapped to a piece of balsa wood. And as you can see, it's sort of a greenhouse sort of style cockpit, and yeah, basically the rest of it was made pretty much of balsa wood. It was, this aircraft go very cheap to make, aside from the engines. So there we are, just having a little feel of this. It's been ages since I've flown this, and very unique in the way it flies. You know, every time you change the power setting, the whole trim and the yaw and everything is off. It's bizarre. It's a unique plane to fly. Was uncomfortably low there. It was actually surprisingly hard to pull up from that roll. I'm not sure. I don't know what was up with it. Seems to be fine now. Let's not try getting too carried away. I just want to see what was up there. I'm going to try and pull out of a dive with a bit more wiggle room. Reducing the RPMs a bit now. Alright, let's try now, Paul. See that? accelerated stall came on very easily. Let's try it once more. 180 speed in miles an hour again. Let's use the roll to help get the nose down. $220 mph pulling up. You see right on the edge of the stall there, just starting to judder. If I'd have pulled any more, I think one of them would have gone. Alright, there's the wheel whistle. Slow the aircraft down. Down it goes. All those engines pop in. Yeah, so as we get near the stall, as I just put power on, look at it. Just very quick to recover. I mustn't forget not to let go, because that's obviously the worst thing. So let's give full RPMs and start. There was this weird thing with the flaps on this. I've got to look. There was like a... It wouldn't come down unless you... Where was it? There we go. That's the flap lever. So there's like that metal catch there. I can't just move the lever until I move that metal catch out the way. Let me just point it out in case you didn't see it there. This here is the metal catch. This here is the flap lever. So as I try and move the flap lever down, it won't go. I have to move that metal catch. Must have been so crew didn't actually accidentally press it, perhaps in a high G turn. Or maybe it was so the lever didn't move in a high G turn. I can't say, but it requires binding an extra button to move that lever. So if you watch it, there we go, moving the lever back and forth there. And so once I move it out, I can give a bit of flap and then it will go back. Alright, here we go then. Let's give ourselves a bit more power. And a bit more flap. Go. What's that? 20 degrees or 30? I think it's 30 degrees it says. One or the other. It's that much, yeah. That looks like 30 degrees to me. So let's start the turn to final. And I'm going to move that flap cover out the way. I don't know how long it will stay there, because it would be nice to be able to put flaps down when I want in the heat of the moment. The cover's still out the way, and here we go. Let's idle the power, and I'm just going to give full flaps now. DCS still suffers from these annoying little ballsy stutter things. And again, I've got 64 gigs of RAM, the RTX 4090 with a 12 core 24 logical 12 physical process AMD. Shouldn't really be happening. Solid states. Yeah, see there, I used the engines to sort of cushion my landing. Actually, this is easier to land and stop than I thought. I actually thought this one was going to be really difficult, but the approach was quite difficult. Once we're on the ground, I'm surprised how stable the aircraft was, actually. I have memories of this one being really difficult to keep straight on the ground, and it, to be fair, kind of is for takeoff, but for landing, that was surprisingly easy. And so there we go. The Mosquito is down. So let's try the P47. That's the Jug, obviously the the ugly cousin of the P51, the Mustang. This one, the less sexy one, but the aircrew that flew it swear by it. Was a very strong, rugged aircraft. Could dive down, gain a lot of speed, and then, you know, do some shooting and pull back up, and that was its strength, really. It was perhaps not so good in the twisty turny dogfights, but each aircraft has to fight to its strengths, and this one certainly was a hit and run, and could carry a shed load of rockets and bombs for a fighter. It could actually carry, it's got 5 pylons on it, which is, you know, unheard of at this stage of the war for aircraft. You know, most aircraft either has 1 pylon or 3. You know, one under the center, two, one on each wing. This one has two. You can make use of them. In any case, also one of the most realistic in DCS. This one, if you start the engine up and try and go too quick, it will instantly conk. Gotta wait for the oil to warm up. So you see on, if we look out the front there, the engine cowling's open by default. So I'm just going to close that a bit. Keep an eye on the temperatures here, but for now, it's time to go. Smoothly increasing the power. Don't want any sudden aerodynamic surprises. And this one is one of those that you're supposed to take off with the canopy open, which it is, in case you suffer some sort of disaster, really. And if you shut the canopy and you crash, it could jam and they can't open it. So that was the reason. Closing the cowling altogether now, and there we go. I'm going to pull back, stand on the wheel brakes, and wheels up. And with it, we can close. There we go. Close the cowling even more. There we go, that's as closed as you can get it. Drop the RPM back into the green. There we go, 25, 2600, something like that. And this is an aircraft, again, nice to fly. You've got your trim for pitch, roll, and yaw. And again, fuel for days, right? Versus the British and the German aircraft. This one, you know, if you had to, you could fly for hours. I think the Spitfire and the German aircraft, the Messerschmitt, the 109 and the Focke Wulf 190, typically mission endurance was like hour and a half. These can go like 4 or 5, you know, with external tanks even more hours, which is, you know, these could escort the bombers right on into Germany before France was even started on 44. In any case, it's one of the, what I did there was what you'd call one of the escape maneuvers. There was this airshow crash. Wasn't with one of these, but there was an airshow crash in Britain that killed a few people on the motorway a few years ago, and one of the criticisms was that the pilot he was trying to do a loop, and the criticism was he didn't perform a so-called escape maneuver. He was basically too low and too slow when he went over, and you know, there was debate of, was he trained for it, or was it a case of he didn't want to look bad and, you know, screw up his move? He was trying to go for it, you know, whatever. And he survived, actually. He ejected and survived, but they, you know, killed a few people on the ground. And so I'll just demonstrate that, actually, for those of you still watching. So the escape maneuver is kind of what we did. So here we are. So let's just pretend we're too low and too slow here to do the loop, but we're going to try go for it anyway. And so at this point, you don't have to continue with the loop, right? We can still escape. Now, if we don't want to continue with the loop, and once you pointed straight down, I guess that's, you know, you're done there. But now, you know, if we want to escape, we can roll over, and that's it. Now, they say, oh, he wouldn't have been trained to do such a move, and I'm just thinking, does it really require somebody to train you in order to know that that's what you need to do? I mean, I'm training in aerobatic escape maneuvers, and it's very obvious to me that, you know, unless you're literally pointing nose straight down to the ground, at any other position, you know, the easiest way to escape is roll the wings level with the horizon and pull back on the stick, and that's always what we're doing. You know, it doesn't matter which way you are, you know, here. We want to recover. Okay. Wings level with the horizon. And get the nose level with the horizon. Okay, we've stalled through. Wings level. And pull up to the horizon. You don't want to yank it too hard because you'll end up stalling and then just enter into another spin. In any case, there we go. Free lesson. Let's try landing this one. Just get the impression this ain't the easiest aircraft in the world. If you are new to the Warbirds, I mean, you know, the Yak is obviously not a Warbird. It's a prop that can't shoot, sort of a trainer that the Russians used to graduate towards the Warbird or any other aircraft. But aside from that, if you want to shoot, and the free aircraft that you obviously get in DCS is the trainer version of the P51 Mustang, and I would suggest flying that, the trainer version, and see how you find that. And if you find that you can deal with that, that is probably the easiest aircraft all round when it comes to Warbird. Taxiing for sure. Takeoff, landing and flying because of the trim and everything, and it's, as far as Warbirds go, kind of forgiving. That's, I would say, the easiest one, and the great thing is the trainer version is completely free, the TF51, and so you will actually know how well you can fly that aircraft. The only difference with the P51 really is that you get the gun, you get the ability to attach smoke, bombs, wood, you know, fuel tanks, and that's basically it, basically. Right, here we go then. Low pass. Max power. .45 degrees and pulling up. Back with the power. Smoothly, smoothly, smoothly. All the way to idle. And she's gone. Lower the nose a bit more. Little bit of left rudder, let the nose come down, build up a bit of speed, pop the gear, and start with the flaps. There we go. Actually lost so much height there with idle power, kind of surprised me, so we'll put a bit more power on. Actually looks still, wow. So yeah, this aircraft again, not, you know, it's so easy to lose energy on this one. So I'm just going to give full flaps now. It is a miles per hour style aircraft. The torque's trying to throw me over to the left, which is fine, but I just got to be aware of when I cut the power, it's going to go the other way. Here we go. We're down, little bounce, down again. And you know, I'm trying to brake quite aggressively because I'm aware it's a short runway and I think we've got it, so I'm going to ease off on the brakes now. Don't want to hit the stones with the wings, although I wasn't convinced that they were modelled before when we sort of veered off with the, what was it, the 339. But in any case, there we go. So the jug, actually, again, it surprised me. The most difficult bit was the energy management on the approach, I have to say. So that's the jug. The P51 we've done, the Mustang, we did the 25. That's the 30 variant, which is basically the same, just a slightly more modern one. Spitfire we haven't done, very difficult one this. A beautiful joy to fly, but because of its very narrow undercarriage, is very, very difficult to land off runway. Now, I'm aware this is sort of a runway, but well, we'll see. And so here we go. I elect to go with the standard Spitfire versus the cropped wing version. So there she goes, a beauty to fly. I've heard from many real pilots that have flown, you know, 30, 40, 50 aircraft types, including the Spitfire, and whenever I've heard any of them ask, out of all of them, what was your favourite aircraft? I've always heard Spitfire, every single one of them, and I find that interesting. And I don't know, are they just saying it because they're expected to say it in the nostalgia and the history with the aircraft, or do they genuinely mean it? I suspect it's probably both, but I do think that they genuinely mean it. You know, it's both. Anyway, smoothly increase the power. Measured in boost, which was unique. Just gonna knock the volume back a tad. Whoa. There we go. Brakes and wheels up. Does have rudder trim, does this one, as well as elevator trim, no roll trim though. Bringing the RPMs back to, I don't know, let's go to 26. There we go. Going to increase the boost a little bit. Let's go to boost 12. Why not? There we go. And we'll go ahead and give ourselves a little flyby. Beautiful. Beautiful aircraft, man. And yeah, flies really, really nice in DCS. The turn circle or the turn radius of this is so small. Now, so when you go against other Warbirds, you can turn inside them all very easily for this one. Just don't really want to get caught into a situation where you need to outrun them, because it's quite difficult to do. Right, let's increase the RPMs. Easing off on the booster tad. And here's the runway in question. And up we go. Stop. Rotate. Stop. And we'll continue pulling up. And hopefully we'll be more or less in line with the runway. Not bad at all. Beautiful. All right, this will be our approach and overhead brake. 3, 2, 1, roll and pull. Reduce power to idle. Well, those annoying pauses again. It's every time you get low and then pull up and sort of, I say every time, it's not every time, but when it happens, it's when you're low and you're changing sort of between 200, 300, 400 feet. It's sort of, that's sort of where it happens. If you stay above that or below it, you never occur. The stutter never occurs. And I suspect because most people would take off and stay high to do their mission or whatever, they would. It's only those that perform low-level aerobatics or flat hatting that is going to see it. All right, so here we go then. So gear down. Speed, you see there, 120 miles an hour, and the threshold basically just behind our wing now. So we'll turn to final. It's only got a very basic flap, this one. It's either up or down, and it's just a chunk of metal that drops out the bottom of the wing. You don't see anything from the upside. You see that little indicator there to let you know that it's down. But if we there you can see just a bit of metal that's down by 90 degrees. Very effective at slowing the aircraft down. I'm not sure if it gives any extra lift. Maybe does a little bit, but really it's to let you have a steeper approach. Getting a bit slow there, so a bit of power, and that's it. Make sure we don't hit the tops of those trees, and I think we're good. There's the flare. Chop the power. Go on. And we're down. Applying the brakes a little bit more, bit more. Come on. Don't want to, obviously, too much of the aircraft tip over the front and the blade slap into the ground. Done that once or twice as well. Couple of 100 times more like, but there we go. We're down. I'll show you what I mean from the external view. So if I just put a bit of speed on and then stand on the brakes, that there is what I don't want to occur. And so there we go. But I couldn't do that again if I tried. Okay, let's choose another one. So that's the Spitfire done. We've done the P51. The Harrier doesn't really count, but we may have a look at that in a bit. And so we've got the German aircraft now. We've got the Messerschmitt, as well as the Focke Wulf 190 D9 and the A8 variant. I think we're just going to pick the D9. The A8 is, as far as DCS modules go, the newer one, but I much prefer the D9. The A8, if you like your combat air support, alright, go for it. It's got a wider variety of weapons, but if it's air combat, nah. Alright, let's get rid of the gun sight. Always found that a hindrance on this, unless you obviously need it. Right, let's go for manual throttle, blade RPMs. I think I'm gonna go for a 1045 takeoff. There we go. All right. Stand on the brakes. German's got independent braking with the pedals, unlike the lever the Spitfire had. And release. Right rudder, bit more, bit of right braking. Slowly got it. Bit more power now. Bit more. Speed's looking good. Nose has come down. There's 200. Ease it off. Squeeze the brakes, let go, and with it, wheels can come up. This one, very modern invention for the time. If you take a look at the front of the wing, we've got automatic slats on this one. See how they're coming out? That's fully automatic. See there as well? That's obviously a standard thing these days on all fighters, but back then, man, that was unheard of. And that's, I think, was a response, because this is one of the later versions of the Messerschmitt 109. I think it was one of the things they did in response to the Spitfire that obviously had a very tight turning circle. So this enables the Germans to, in some way, stand a bit of a better chance. So RPM's obviously causing a problem now, so we'll dial the engine back a tad. We'll go for 9:30. And we'll bring the power back to about 1388. You know, every single country had a different way of measuring the thrust. German, it's this ATA 13. Britain, you had the boost pressure. The Americans have the, what was it, pressure of mercury in inches or whatever. Nobody had a simple percentage. Or the N1, or the EPAs. Alright. Let's put the power on, and let's do our buzz, and with it we'll come into land. And there we hear the MW50 kick in. The secret emergency power boost that the Germans say secret, but it was certainly effective. Right, it's a very aggressive idle thrust there. So I'm going to go for manual pitch again, and I'm going to go for 1030. I think will be nice. Right, let's open the. Hang on, where are we? There we go. So I'm going to open the vents now for the engine cooling, but it will also help me slow the aircraft down. And a little bit of flap, and we'll probably get the gear warning. We do. Trimming back. And let's dump the gear. Gave myself far too big of an approach there. So I'm going to go full flaps because I'm a little bit too high here. And I'm going to give myself a little S-turn. Make sure I don't go too fast. Speed is around 240 kilometers per hour, which is fine. Don't really want to go, but I don't know what the limit is, but I think somewhere around 250, but maybe 300. But either way, better safe than sorry. We'll stay below 250 with the flaps and the gear. Bit of power now. I was perhaps a little over ambitious with that S turn, so. Oh. Ouch. Screwed that one up, didn't I? See how I love the aerodynamic forces there, how it screwed up the torque from the prop. One of the wings stalling, not the other. I tried to correct it with the rudder. It snaps the other one out. It was brilliant. Alright, here I am. Yeah, that's unfortunate. Written another one off. Alright. Getting towards the end then, the D9. Hopefully have a little bit more luck. Then we'll have a little look at the Harry, and then finally the Yak. And then I think that will be it. I really should have had that Messerschmitt one. It was my favourite aircraft, Warbird, I think, that I flew on the regular. Alright, oh, that's a weird sort of a zoom view. I'll see if I can make it work like that. And so the RPMs on this one was automatically regulated. Again, this is a Focke Wulf 190, which is about the most advanced fighter aircraft that the Germans made in the war, short of the Me-262, which was of course the jet fighter, of which they built over 1,000, which is kind of mad if you think about it. Most of them I don't think ever got to fly, but they did build over 1,000. Alright, let's go. And actually used fuel that was easier to get hold of than the regular fuel for the props, which was also interesting. Alright. IL, this is a bit more difficult than I remember to keep. Have I done something wrong here? Right, a bit more power. Oh yeah, I didn't hold the stick back. There we go. Right, ease it off now. We've got speed. Yeah, you hold the stick back on this aircraft to keep the tail wheel locked in, and I forgot all about that. Obviously, you got to remember you're doing that, otherwise you'll pull up suddenly and stall. Here we go. Sounds a lot more graceful, that, doesn't it, on takeoff? Doesn't sound as... It's a lot more... Yeah. Alright, so here we go. So the flaps are in, the wheels are in. Now this actually had an electronic trim. If I just hide my pilot guy, notice this. One of the very first ones that actually had an electric switch for the trim. You know, and at some point, you know, if they'd have had a year or two more, they'd have figured that switch needs to be on the stick. And, you know, then they would have been there, right? Because that's what the... You know, is the standards, actually as of about the 50s. If we see the Sabre, they have the trim on the stick. The MiG-15 didn't. I'm not sure when they first did, but the MiG-15, the trim's on the side, kind of like there. It's a little further up, but it's not on the stick. So perhaps the Americans were the first to think of that. Speed again on this one is in kilometers per hour. And there's the runway, so let's do a 270. Up round. Bit of right rudder. Hold it there, that's nice. That's looking good. Ease it off on the rudder a little bit. And that right there is perfect. I like it. And here's our low level approach. Avoiding the radio tower, and let's start pulling. This one flies nice and smooth when it's fast. Smoothly the power back to idle, and that's looking great. Trimming back. And we're about there, so let's dump the gear. And flaps 1. This one's got 2 settings if I recall. Yeah, it's one of those on the underneath. And threshold is behind the wing, so let's turn the final. I'm going to go flaps full now. Just get a feel for it. Yeah, Oh, that's a bit too high of an angle attack. Don't want to be stalling. Come on. Little bit of slip there, just got the speed a bit high. Again, I'm doing all of these with basically a full tank of fuel, which isn't always necessarily realistic, as well as a full magazine of ammo. Oh, a bit of a... No, I'm not even going to try. Absolute full power there. Just having a feel for how the engine affects the aircraft there, the torque and whatnot. Every one is very different, and again, I'm not sure whether some are over-exaggerated and some aren't quite enough compared to real, or whether the differences really are as profound as it makes it seem. I couldn't say. But in any case, flaps are full. Wheels are down, as we see. Actually, the guy's arm covers the green lights here, which is why having the pilot's body is not always an advantage. Oh! Oh, shit. And that was really not very good. And so we knackered another one. And so let's have a little go now with the Harrier, which will obviously, you know, can hover, right? I did set this one to have half fuel, so I should be able to do this. At least so's the theory. Let's unlock my throttles and set my bingo to... Actually, I don't know what our elevation here is versus sea level. Let's have a little look. Well, according to this... only about 1,000 feet, so we should be able to hover just fine. So I'm going to go up and start dumping fuel because I've actually got 3,800 pounds. And then we'll see how it goes. Alright, let's square up my track IR. It's drifted a little bit. And get rid of the parking brakes. Put the landing lights on. Let's go. And so I'm not entirely sure when the nozzle rotation speed should be, so I'm going to go for 100 knots, which is now. Up we go. Perhaps needed a little bit more, but it's fine. Ease the power off. Wheels in. And I've got to start easing off with the nozzles. We've got this low altitude warning, so I'm going to get rid of that. Hang on, where are we here? Altitude, we're going to set it for 20 feet so we don't get that warning anymore. There we go. Nozzles all the way forward and we'll go into flight mode. So we're up. Let's get a flyby. Go ahead, turn the countermeasures into automatic. There we go. Flares. Lots of flares. Get rid of that mouse pointer, and here's the town. Let's dive down. Don't want to hit any street lamps. Or I would love to dive down a little lower. Do a nice barrel roll around the electric power pylons. Something I like. Ooh, it's got a little close there. Something I like to do once in a while, as well as loop and roll around the hills. Kind of relaxing in a weird way. Used to do it an awful lot years ago. Been a bit too busy for some of it lately, but let's come into land then. Oh, I did say I was going to dump some fuel. I need to dump the fuel. Don't know if they're still the same switches. There we go. There's the fuel dump. Actually, very... What's the words? So, you know, there's a lot of fuel there. As in, it almost looks like I've got white smoke on. I didn't realise the fuel was that lingered that much. They must have changed that in an update at some point, because it's just something else. So what's up here with the controls? There we go. And the fuel dump automatically turns off, which it has now done when it's about £2,800, something like that. We see there we're £2,700 of fuel down there. Which, if you're not carrying anything, which we're not, we are... Oh, we do actually have smoke pods on, I beg your pardon. It looks like we've got smoke pods on. Let's try giving them a go. What's the... There we go. We do have smoke pods on, red and yellow. And that was not obviously the fuel dump, as you can see, they're coloured smoke pods. So they do add a bit of weight to the aircraft. If it's cold and we're at sea level, we'd easily be able to hover now, even with the smoke pods. Because it's not cold, we're in Argentina, and we're not quite at sea level, we're at 1,000 feet. I'm just going to burn about 500 pounds, and then we should be okay. I think we could probably hover if we really had to, but there would be like no power in reserve in case I need it. I like to just have that little bit of power just in case, because I fool around and like to be able to get myself out of the mess if I can. Great aircraft, this. And before all the more recent aircraft in DCS, I mean, this was obviously even well before the F-18, but if you know, even if you count the F-18, before the F-16, we already had the A-10C, but this flies a lot faster than the A-10C and is obviously carrier capable. I mean, it can hover and, you know, land at the front lines if it needs to. You've got the Mirage 2000, which was obviously an old school aircraft. That came out before this. So really, when you think about it, the Mirage 2000, the A-10C, I'm trying to think, was there anything else? And I don't think there was. The F-18, the F-16, the Jeff 17, obviously the new F-15 by Razbam, the F-14 by Heat Blur. All of those came well after this aircraft. So back then, this, if you were wanting to pound the ground, this was the best one after the A-10. And again, if speed kind of mattered and all you needed to be carrier operational, you know, this really was the only choice that you had. And even with the F-18, I maintain that this still had, you know, I mean, this has got laser guided rockets now. The F-18 doesn't. And you may say, well, the F-18's got Mavericks. Well, this has got Mavericks, but the difference between laser guided rocket and Maverick is you can carry 7 laser guided rockets on one pylon. You can only carry 1 Maverick on a pylon. That applies to this and the F-18. The F-16 for some reason can carry 3 Mavericks on a pylon. You may say, well, a Maverick can destroy a tank, a laser guided rocket can't. That is true. But for pretty much every other target, the laser guided rocket is, you know, you get 7 kills instead of the 1. Alright, here we go then. So that's enough burnt. We're at 24, so I'm going to turn the smoke off. Put landing mode in, just get a quick check that I can throw the nozzles all the way back. I'm just going to get a bit of speed on before I do that check. So I'm going to roll my nozzles all the way back just to see that the controls set up right, because I'm going to need them and that nothing's getting in their way. So they're all the way forward. I'm going to idle the engines, and if I start rolling the nozzles back, see that number there, it says 10. Now it's like 20 odd. I need to be able to get that all the way back. There we go, 98. That's great. Right, all the way forward to none, and I'll put power on. If I put power on when the nozzles are at 98 degrees, they'll actually slow me down when I put power on more than speed me up. Anyway, they're at 90 degrees, obviously. I say it's not obvious, actually, because it's more like 80 some that the perfect hover is. I don't know if it's like 82 or 3 or 4 I'm wanting to say. I don't know, we'll see. Alright, so landing mode, as we said, is in. We've got the nozzles there. I'm going to get the water on. So there we go, watering landing mode. Keep it there. It doesn't actually spray until it's needed, but it enables it. Alright, speed reducing. And I'm going to start using the nozzles. There we go, 30 degrees. And I'm going to try and hold my height round about here. Speed's dropping off nicely, and about 160 I'm going to go for flaps for landing, and then there'll be a little bit of a lift when that happens. Here we go. So there we go, flaps are down for landing. Bit of power now. Did they come down? Yeah, there we go. Right, gear to go. As we see, we still got that up, but the flaps are down. It's actually a good view of the nozzles there. Let's give a bit more power. You can see they're sort of part of the way down. I'm going to give them a bit more. There you see them move. They're very, very responsive because they have to be, right? That's basically how you hover. And let's go ahead, put the gear down. Pull the nozzles back a bit more now to carry on slowing down. Bit more power. Looking good. Speed continues to drop off. More or less in line with the runway now. A bit more power. Yeah, I've got it. I've got it. And we're over the runway. Height there. About 10 feet off the ground. Speed just nose over a bit. See, my nozzles now at 92 degrees, so they're helping me to slow down. And there we go. We are in the hover. And there you see the nozzle angle at like 82 degrees. Go on then. Go on then. Now in real life, if you went in there, the airflow would bounce around the hangar, summit chronic, and it would right throw you over. Like, you wouldn't be able to hover in there is what I'm saying. Just... the airflow would be too violent and extreme, but I don't think it's simulated in DCS sites, so that probably won't make any difference when I fly through the hangar door, assuming I can fly through it. And we're in. Nozzles back. We're hovering. We're hovering. There we go, ladies and gentlemen, we've arrived in the Harrier. We didn't crash either. So now, last but not least, the Yak 52. This one is, well, as we see, a trainer, no weapons. Can't put smoke on it. I think I did actually put smoke on it. That's not to say I remember the controls. Let me just check real quick. Oops. Oh, what have I just done? Yak 52, come on. There we go. Apologies for that. What I was trying to look for was adjust controls and see if the smoke is... Okay, the smoke is the trigger, which makes sense because this plane can't shoot, so yeah. Alright. Okay, so this one, as is kind of typical with Russian aircraft, brake is the lever, which, to be fair, was how it was with the Spitfire as well. So you can... differential brake, you've got to put the rudder in and then squeeze, and then it sort of knows to just put brakes on that side. I'll say no, it's sort of mechanically set up that way, but it certainly helps to have the brakes in the more modern way, I have to say. Alright, so let's go then, see what we can do. Speed, I believe, is in kilometers per hour on this one. Realism on this aircraft I found not the best. Not the worst, but not the best. That said, it's been a while since I've flown it. Possible that it's a little better. But about 50-60% thrust, or at least I've moved my lever that far, so let's pull up. Wheels up. We're getting speed into the red there. Let's just see what happens. Let's keep climbing. Danger speed, so, you know. But we're still going into the red. We're still going. I'm using a little bit of left rudder here to continue. And it seems to be... You know, as you can see, it's not really climbing very much. Oh, it is climbing a little bit, but we've got this horrific angle of attack. Almost flying level despite being pitched at some crazy angle. So the smoke, yeah, there we see. The smoke perhaps shows a bit better our direction of flight. Alright then, 3, 2, 1, let's go. Pop the RPMs back a bit extra power, and beautiful. Hopefully this time I won't screw up. Let's see if we can do a couple of barrel rolls around these power lines, even if it is in a yak. Of course they then break off at an angle, but let's improvise. Highly illegal, of course, but I'm sure somebody's done it in real life, probably in Russia as well. You've seen some of those videos on YouTube, that's assuming they haven't been deleted. A little bit more power, I think. Yeah, it's actually quite hard to do. Oh god, it changes angle again. Right, here we go. It's a lot. What I'm trying to say is it's a lot easier to do this in the jets that are at high speed for whatever reason. Oh, and that's the end already. Okay, there we go. Regardless. Oh, and there's the runway. Makes sense actually not to have power pylons running across the runway. Okay, actually, I'm going to try landing in that big park there. I think, although probably pretty much every other aircraft would be impossible. Impossible's not right a word, but very difficult. Certainly shorter than the runway, but I think this one will manage it. And so let's go for it then. So, gear. Flaps. RPM's full. Engine idle. Down we come. Gonna turn the smoke off. Go on, turn the smoke off. Oh, the button doesn't work. That could be because the gear's down. So let's raise the gear. Raise the flaps. some reason I still can't seem to turn the smoke off. What about now? Well, that's bizarre. Flaps are still somewhat down. I wonder if that is the reason. Right, flaps. In other words, DCS is blocking you pressing the smoke button because you're in a landing configuration, and no, it is not the reason because it's still not letting me stop. Okay. And the wheels are up, by the way. As you can see, there's nowhere for them to tuck. They just get a little bit closer to the wings versus not. What difference that makes? Well, apparently it does make a bit of a difference. Not as much as... Anyway, whatever. Let's try this then. I'm getting tired. It's getting late. And it's full power. This is absolute full power. I remember flying in, you know, the Grob tutor at cadets. And oh, man. It was... I remember this one guy just say it, right? He had the aviator shades on, and he was probably about my age now, and I was this, you know, little kid at the time, like 15 or something. And he sat with face, like, full concentration like this, hands on, literally on throttle and stick, and it's absolutely firewalling it like this, and we're flying down low. And he's got that. And it's like, obviously this is illegal, although I didn't know it at the time, just being a little kid, and obviously before the internet was as widespread as now, it wasn't as easy to find this. You know, it wasn't full of YouTube, basically, because it didn't exist, right? And so, anyway, we're flying like that, and I've never forgot sort of turning around. He sat right there looking at his face with his shades, like full concentration, with this thing full, you know, it's buzzing around, not particularly going that fast, but very, very low down, and just finding it hilarious. I found it hilarious. You know, and probably there could have probably been 20 other of you lot sat there that would have looked around and looked at that face and thought it weren't funny at all, but I don't know why, I just thought it was hilarious, and I've never forgotten it. Anyways, here we go then. So full RPM. There's the field. There's the gear lever. They're green. And there's the flaps. Indicate that little pole there sticking out is the indicator that basically it's good. And so I can't remember actually if they confirmed the gear is down or the flaps is down. Do you know what easy way to find out? Let's try retract the flaps. No, it's definitely the gear. Right, here we go then. Turn to final. Still got pretty much a full tank of gas. Remember this aircraft, when you pitched it side to side, the fuel would actually slosh through and it would show fuller on one side and less full on the other. So if you only had like half a tank and you were doing tight moves, one tank would show basically empty. So just limped over that tree. There's the flare. Actually, I thought that was going to stall, but it didn't. Standing on the brakes. It's not the biggest, it's not... By hell, that stopped quick. Unfortunately, yeah, the smoke was still going. That was a... And so, yeah, actually not that difficult, was it? Let's get rid of the flaps. Again, apologies about that smoke. I can't seem to shut it off, again, for reasons unknown. Probably a bit of a bug, actually, because... In any case... There we go. So we're in line now for takeoff. I can't see jack shit. Alright, let's reset the altimeter. There you go. You saw the fuel a little unlevel there, but again, if we had like a lot less and leaned right over, you can see how that would really shift. And it does. It's a unique thing about this aircraft, at least in DCS. Alright. Full power. Let go in of the brakes. Here we go. That smoke is a little frustrating, but there we go. Teach me not to turn it on again in this aircraft. Right, 3, 2, 1, let's go. See if we can climb out of this mess. It's going to be close. Trees were there, so I had to turn right because the trees there were straight. Whoa, keep climbing, and wheels up. I'll tell you what, let's try the football field, and then that really will be it. Let's see if we can land the yak inside a soccer field. Again, if I had my time again, I'd empty out a load of that fuel, but I'm not going to. We're just going to go for it. All right. So, this is our overhead brake maneuver, so to speak. Idle power. Now, it was really clever. I'd have put a little bit of wind on ahead of time on this mission and then given myself that as an approach, and I'd have... Looks like I was really good, wouldn't I? But alas, I forgot to do it, and that is confirmed by the fact that the smoke hasn't been blown away. But I'm gonna go for it because I've challenged myself, and here we go. Bit of a slip. And released a slip. Ooh! I'd have loved to have flared, but I could just see if I was to flare that, I was already over half the fields. You know, you can see there. I was basically here when I tried to bury it, sort of halfway through the halfway mark. And I just think if I'd have flared it, I would have basically landed there. There was no way. So actually, that's a lot harder than I thought it would be. It's a shitty way to end the video. But I hope you enjoyed that one. And so until next time from me here in somewhere in Argentina, take care. Bye-bye.